Hello and welcome to another edition of GrassChat. I am Russ, of course, as always, and I'm delighted to say that my next guest is somebody who's actually gone through pretty much all the experiences of what Autograss can bring, going from a fan to a racer and to other aspects of what the sport can entail. So I'm pleased to say that my guest is North Shropshire's Connor Pike. Connor, how are you doing?
Not bad, yeah. Yeah,
I'm very good. I'm very good. Thank you for joining us. As I say to everybody, it's not always easy to express about what can be personal, your life involved in this sport, which we all get hooked to in one way or another. And we're going to talk a bit about that. But before we do, I've asked everybody this because obviously we're in this rubbish time, of course, but you're managing to keep well, you're managing to work, are you, and do as much normal things as possible?
Yeah, still managing to get to work and stuff, luckily, because I'm in the motor trade. We've been classed as essential, so staying open, having our busy spells, quiet spells, but other than that, we're in a job, so lucky.
Most people need a Land Rover, don't they? So
that's it. Oh, that's it, yeah.
And I suppose you're in the part of the world where those sort of requirements go. It's not just the actual vehicles you sell and maintain. You sell parts for them and things like that, don't you? So you can obviously help people out in several ways to keep their own lives going as well as your own.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, got to keep them going on their own, and they come back, then they're happy, aren't they?
Well, that's the main thing, isn't it? But regard all this, you're still managing to do as much family stuff as possible. I know it's difficult with school and actually trying to get frustrated kids out and doing things.
Yeah, well, like Freddie's at nursery at the moment, but well, he isn't. But he is, but he isn't, if you like. And then the other little Eli, he's 5 months old. He's just dribbling, moaning, and all that. He's going through that phase at the minute, bless him. But no, they're both good as gold. And
good. It's 5 months old. It's probably the best age in life to be at the minute because you ain't going to care about anything.
No, well, he is. It's brilliant when I come in from work. He's at that stage now where he's smiling at you, so he's recognising who we are when you come in and all that. So it's the nice stage now. He's not at the just sitting there, lying there type bit. But no, he's all right, to be fair.
Good. Well, with family, your family has been involved in motorsport and Autograss for a long time, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and but primarily you and your path through this crazy world which Autograss brings. I mean, I often think, what the hell would we do without it? And we're actually trying to find that out now, obviously with this very limited social lifestyle that we've got. But we're going to find out pretty much your journey through from the beginning till now, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got to say. But as I say, you started in a family, of course, involved with Autograss racing. Your dad Andy, quite a well-known name in the Autograss circles. He's been racing. I've known him racing from the early 90s, so there's definitely 30 years experience touching on there. Was the sport beyond your dad in an older generation, or was it your dad who found the sport and has introduced you guys into it?
Dad's always been involved with motorsport. So Dad, from a very young age, I think if he'd confirm it, I think about 14, 15, started with motocross. Then I believe he stopped when met my mom and I was born. So like any typical dad, they have a bit of a break, don't they? But Dad, he got itchy feet. He couldn't stay away from anything. And I remember, I can't ever remember it myself, but he did a bit of off-road racing, so like the trials and competitions and stuff. And then it was 95. He bought a Mark II Escort from somebody, and he joined originally. Dad was the North Wales club, and then realised there was a track being Star, 5 minutes from home. So instead of travelling to North Wales every weekend, he joined Star, and that's where it kind of led on from then. So it was a very early age I can remember going racing. And in your video you did the other day with your memorable races and stuff, that's why I said the 2000 Nationals, because that's the one that sticks firmly in my head. that I can remember as a kid. So it kind of stemmed from there, really. So we've always been involved in something, and then Dad stopped in 2000, the Nationals, I believe, or the end of that year was his last year. And then I think it was 2003 then that me and Joe went to the bikes then, to the motocross for a few years, and then that was it, really. We come back to the grass.
Okay. Do you know where the 205 number came from? Because obviously that was always your dad's number in grassing. Is that what he picked when he first joined North Wales? Did he have it before, or for a reason?
I think he joined with, I don't know who the bloke was, but there was a bloke that lived up by Dad's garage. And I think, I'll stand to be corrected, I think he was 204 originally. And Dad just went, well, all right, well, I'll have 205. And I think that's how it stood. But I know the 204 was the bloke's prison cell number. That's how he had that number. So, but I could not tell you for the life of me where 205 come from.
Hang on, your dad wasn't in prison cell 205 at the time, was he?
Definitely wasn't Dad. No, definitely wasn't Dad. But whoever he was going with, or whoever he'd met, or something at the race meeting, or local to him, had said, "Well, that's my number, and that's why it's my number."
Right.
But
okay.
But yeah, that's how that kind of stemmed, really.
Well, there's always unique ways in this sport and how things happen, and that's certainly one which I don't think will be ever replicated.
No.
So at a young age then, was you involved in cars, bikes, or did you sort of grow into that a little bit later? I mean, was that an early interest to you?
I'd always been interested in it because we'd always gone racing with Dad when we were kids, and I used to love going. I can remember, I think the first meeting I went to with my dad on my own was a bass round at Radford at some point.
Yeah.
Cannot tell you what year. All I can remember is just me and Dad going. But then I say me and Joe and Dad, we had a stint on the motocross bikes. I think it was 2002, 2003, that time of thing. Joe had a bit of an off and stuff like that. And then Dad suggested, like, why don't we go? I can remember going up to Star to watch a meeting. And I'd never seen a car with two bike engines in the back ever. I was only a kid. And it was Tommy Law, it was. I remember seeing him.
Oh, yeah.
And it was his car. And it was kind of from then. But a lot of people don't know it. But when I was a lot younger, I had a very mild form of epilepsy. So I couldn't race for a long time.
Right.
So that's kind of why then it grew on me, enjoying helping them, if you like, and spannering on it and stuff like that. That's how that kind of stemmed about, really. So it wasn't until I was older I kind of grew out of that condition, if you like.
Yeah.
That's how we went to kind of where we are now, I suppose.
Okay, so obviously then you've had a bit of a peculiar path at early age. You're sort of in and out. You wasn't really know where you was going to grow up to be, whether it was going to be bikes, whether it was going to be in cars, whether it was going to be something completely out of the way. But did you sort of go to, when you did go at an early age to the meetings, did you watch much? I mean, the Shropshire region was and still is, and it looks like it will remain to be such a high caliber of races in all classes. I mean, your dad obviously spent a long time in class 3. That was most of his racing years. He had a spell in 2s, then 3 was where I first remember seeing him. But I mean, the Shropshire League, it's incredible for class 3s. It was 30 years ago. It still is now.
Yeah.
Was there anybody else who sort of stood out to you and you thought, wow, looked like you had to watch them when you were younger?
When I was younger, see, it seems so far back now. I can obviously remember like Leon Dorset.
Well, Leon's still there now, isn't he?
He's still there, yeah. Like Leon, I think the world of him. He's a lovely bloke, absolutely spot on, do anything for you. I kind of always admired him. I can tell you something I always used to absolutely hated Bob Matthews, because he used to beat my dad. I used to hate it.
Bob's a lovely man.
But when you was a kid and he's beating your dad, all like he you know what I mean? I used to hate it, absolutely hate it. And I always used to think, I hope he spins, so Dad can win. And it used to just go through me. I'd always remember that.
Yeah.
But like obviously like then like I was good mates when we were kids. It was like me and Tom Powell, so I always used to watch the nines and stuff in Morris and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But like you say, we've always had a competitive league, even to now. You can stand there marshalling, and you look at the first heat of Class 3s, and you've got Dad, you've got Bob, you've got Leon, you've got them all, and you've still got the A boys and Goldies and all that. And yeah, it's like it's still you'd pay your money just to go and watch them.
Well, you would. I mean, I remember seeing like the list of Class 3s in the 90s, and it was just like, wow, I wished I lived closer to go watch, because you had your dad, Leon, you had Kev Tipton, Dave Allmark, Ian McDonald, Martin Gould was racing then, and then you had others as well who were always quick, Bob Matthews, as you say, and even more. And you think, it's like, even those who didn't qualify for nationals and things like that, you know that they were seriously good, and those who did get there have earned it, and they still have today. And I don't know what it is, but a region seems to have that, where a class is the class to be at. And for Shropshire, for 30 years, it still is Class 3, and it's my favourite class. It's what I grew up watching. And as you say, with your dad in it, I'm sure it was just a buzz every weekend being in it. Just to be amongst that group.
It just like kind of proves that sort of with the competition. You look at your Class 1s now all the way up to 10, and I always think if you've made the nationals from our league, you're doing well. And that kind of hit me when I did it. Because like 2s as well now, it's still very competitive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think if you can get to your nationals and your Bass finals and stuff, and you're from our league, you're doing well. To be fair.
Oh, 100%, 100% agree with that. But going back to the earlier times, you say that as a family you sort of merged back to the sport of autograss when Joe was getting old enough to race. He'd had his accident on a bike. Right, I'm sure worried mum. Right, you're not doing that anymore. Or Dad might have even said, "You're not doing that anymore. Let's
Definitely,
go.
Mom.
let's go with something with 4 wheels." And so Joe, was he keen to get in a car and race? Because it seems like you wasn't so much, and you seem to take more of an interest in the mechanical side of things, and you wanted to be on the tools, ready to help out and be that part of it. So you had your dad as a driver, you've got an upcoming driver to help teach the way, but you wanted to be there as the chief mechanic, ready to help out, whatever. So how come that was where you went, rather than wanting to get behind the wheel like a lot of kids wanted to do?
I think a lot of it was down to like the fact that because of the job I'm in as well, it's just always been sort of like a keen, what's the word, like an interest, I suppose.
Yeah.
And like, I know it sounds bad, but if someone has a knock, it's that kind of buzz. You've got your 15 minutes, which we never get 15 minutes. It's always like either 10 minutes or 3 hours in it now.
Yes, yeah.
But you know what I mean? It was just the initial quick, get to the bus or get to the truck and get me an arm and a leg and get me this and get plenty of gaffer tape and stuff like that. And you like that when you're back to the car, aren't you? And putting it all back together and stuff like that. And I don't know, it was, but I used to kind of enjoy seeing them do well as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it kind of sort of stemmed from there. And then when Dad, he got his first car, he bought that Metro. And I was only young then, though, to be fair, Russell. I wouldn't have really doing an awful lot then. But I remember he had that Metro that he put a booster in. That was the first year back. Then he had a single Cinquecento.
Yeah, he won a Baz round in that, didn't he? Which I actually forgot.
I think that was in the twin. I think that was in the twin.
Twin.
Yeah, which that was Wayne Llewellyn's. He built that one, I think. Yeah, so Dad run at Evesham. I think that was at 08, 09.
It was. I think it was 09. I might be. I think it was 09. I think
DVD.
Yeah, I think it was 09. But yeah, hell of a drive, and that's the sort of thing when he'd managed to go from one wet version of the discipline, like a Class 3, which is a hell of a lot different to a Class 7, but he'd just come back for a bit or so off the bikes, and and he was straight in there mixing it with them. So, but I mean, of all your dad's cars, that 2000 the year of the Toyota Starlet he had, the mainly yellow with black. I mean, that car stood out so much to me. It was one of those where you could see he was on the start line just because of how the car looked. And for some reason, that car did actually catch my eye more than some of the other threes around at the time. And he was actually one, even though I didn't know him other than by name. He was one I wanted to do well. But but for you, you chose to be that main man if something happened and there was a moment of need. Did you, up until before obviously you decided to have a go at it, which we will get to, was there ever any time that I want to have a go, but it just never happened?
Yeah, now I can remember because it was when, I can't remember what year it was, but it's when me and Sam Gould, we were like really pally. And he said to me the one day, I've got an out Mini in the barn. He said, do you want to race it at Severn Valley? Yeah. All right then, yeah. So I can remember we dug this engine out the shed. God knows if it was legal. We really don't know to this day. But we plunked this engine in it. We put some second-hand panels on it, and we literally bodged it together in like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And we went to Severn Valley, and it absolutely poured it down with rain. It was only a club meeting, and I don't know what was in this gearbox, but first gear was awesome. Second gear, nothing. Nothing. And I was spinning, and you know what I mean. I was first out the gate. As soon as I pulled second, that was it. Stone dead last. But I loved every minute of it.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I come off like with such a smile, and I was like, I could do this again and again and again. Yeah. So, thanks, Sam. He's the one that's cost me thousands of pounds and stuff like that. But no, it stemmed from there. That was my first meeting, and then Super Phil, he had his BB Class 8.
Yeah.
And he come down to Star. Now, it could have been the middle of England or something. And Super said to me, do you want to have a go in this? And I said, yeah, all right. Then anyway, I had a go in his Class 8. Thought, bloody hell, that was quick. That was good. But never been in anything like it.
I'll tell you as well. And for going around a track like Star, because I remember when we went to the 2009 Middle of England. Now, I was racing 2 cars. I was racing in 9 and 2, and I missed the drivers' meeting. I did not have a clue that the finish marshal was on the outside.
Yes, yeah.
So we did a 5-lap race, and I did 7 laps because I didn't see him.
Didn't see him, no. Yeah,
but I thought that track was just so fast at the beginning of the day because it was at its grippiest stage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Christ, you could like throw the car in, pitch it anywhere, and it would just grip and go. And that was it. I was having the time of my life. I didn't even know we'd finished.
No, well, if we have a hot weather qualifier, if you like, that track will polish up.
Oh yeah.
It ends up like a dust bowl then, unfortunately. Yeah. But Star, as many people know, used to be like that. It used to be a donut.
Oh yes.
And then I think what they did is they pulled it in, lengthened it out, and I love racing there. To be fair, I loved it. Really good, really fast, plenty of room as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, oh, I don't like it, I don't like Star, I don't like this, but it was really good track, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh, and
to be fair, the grounds team that look after it, you've got like Lee's dad, Brian Everson, and all them. They're on it. They're up there all week before any meeting. Like, they're really good up there, to be fair.
So with having these couple of racing experiences, then do you regret not starting earlier at all? Like when you could have, do you regret it?
No.
Okay.
Because I think I wouldn't have kind of learned what I know, if you like.
Fair enough.
Like I used to enjoy. Like, again, I was only young, but I can remember going with Dad to buy that Metro that he first started in. And I think that belonged to, remember Chris Cope?
Yeah.
Star, I'm sure it was
Star 21.
Chris Cope. Star 21, yeah, I'm sure it was his Metro. And I can remember just doing bits and pieces on it with Dad. But I used to get, I used to love washing them off after.
Really?
Yeah, washing them off, stripping the wheels off it, doing the tyres, doing the bead locks, because it was all stuff Dad hated doing. And I don't know, I used to enjoy doing all that and getting them ready.
I bet your dad loved it, didn't he? He says, "Look, I've got this helper, and I haven't
It
got to
was.
pay him. I haven't got to pay him. He's just going to do it."
Until I started knackering the sidewalls in a hacker, 10-inch hacker, when they went to 80 quid on the tyre machine and putting the sides through them and ripping the beads. I think he was all right up until then.
Yeah, because normally it'd have been, "I'll come home, we'll park up, I'll go for my tea. Connor's there, out there, ready."
I just used to love it. I used to love the like it was the hype before going to the meeting, loading the bus up, getting the spares in, and stuff like that, and then getting there, unloading them and stuff like that. I just used to like and doing all that sort of side of it, and then that's like when I met Goldie then, and that's where it all went downhill, because that's where the cars started coming from then, when we were doing a bit more.
You know, we say downhill, but also it's kept your interest and involvement, and as we're going to talk about, it's sort of grown. But just looking at it, as we say, and you say, you like to get your hands dirty, you like to be in that moment of need. And one moment which stands out to me was, I think it was 2015 Nationals at Severn Valley. It was around that time. Your dad was in one of the first heats of Class 3, and unfortunately, I think he ended up in a bit of a shunt. I'm sure it was your dad. And the car was carried off, and it was sort of just dropped at the side of the track, sort of in a holding area. And
I think that was South Wales, because there's a photo popped up on my Facebook with NDAF holding the front of it.
I can't remember if it was South Wales or Severn Valley, but I know that there was this time where, very first heat of Class 3s, I think it was, your dad ended up in the middle of a pile, not his fault. And the car was sort of carried off with only 2 or 3 wheels on it. There was bits hanging off everywhere. But you were sort of there with wishbones, a spare wheel and all that before the car was even off. I think you was there quite ready to get it to go. And obviously the Nationals, it's an exciting time for those watching, but it's a stressful time for those involved. And that's obviously where you came in. And I'm guessing to do that, that's you, like, as you've said, that's you get that buzz of being there, even though it's a tense time and tempers can be up because you're racing against time. But that's where you got your kicks from, because you wanted to be the person to get that car back on the line, I take it.
Yeah, like that one I take with South Wales, it was when the photo popped up the other day, it was the upright, it was the arms, brake pipes and all that lark. And I can remember jumping on one of the quads with somebody, getting up there before the forklift had got there, because I think that was the year I was marshalling on the start line as well. I can't just remember.
I think you might have been,
I'm sure it was there. And anyway, I hops on this quad, gets up there, and Dad had kind of just reeled this list off the top of his head, plus 20 fags. And you know what I mean? So when he was back down there, they were all there ready. And but it's mad, like, it brings everybody together as well in a fashion. You have a bump and you've got everybody there, haven't you? There's someone on the jack, you've got a man shoving 2 wheels underneath it, and you're on the spanners, and next thing someone's passing your spanners, and and it's just kind of everyone come together and stuff like that. But getting back on the line and then back out for the race, top 3 is like ideal then, and it just kind of makes it all worthwhile. Then it's when it doesn't go to plan, it's a bit disheartening. Then you feel like you've maybe let them down in a fashion.
Yeah, but you can't give up before you start, can you?
No.
Like you say, I mean, the car could have been totaled completely. It could have done some serious damage beyond what it already did. But you've got to go for it and take that chance of getting it back out there. And like I say, I just remember seeing you being there ready to do it, and I sort of stood there because I don't even know why I was round there at the time. I think it was because I was just hovering around waiting for 9s. But it was sort of there, and like, you just straight in, do what you need to do. Look, they say there's 15 minutes. Let's get it done in 10. And then if we have got a bit of extra time and we've missed something, we can get it on. But let's get it. And that's obviously where it gives you a great deal of satisfaction when it does happen. But going from that around, I think it was the year later, you started and decided that you're going to have a go at racing full time, and instead of buying a car, I think you built it. And this is where you started from. So, when did you decide I'm going to have a go? I'm going to go in class 2. And when did you? So when did it all come about that? No, I'm going to do it, and this is what I want to do.
I can remember it was one night in the week after work, and I'd gone up to the yard, well, Shebden, and I just got there and I said to Samo, I says, you know what, and Martin, I says, I really fancy having a go now. And I said, I don't want to go in class 1. I've seen, like Josh, as you know, mates with Fowler, and I'd seen the hours and hours and hours and the money and searching for certain bits for minis. And I said, I don't want to go down that route.
No.
Couldn't obviously afford a 3 at the time. I think I was only like 19, 20 odd. That sort of year, maybe a bit older. But like I couldn't justify the money on it. Anyway, a 2 just kind of stood out to me then. And at the time, I was quite fond of Tim Harbour, and I got on with Tim really well and all that. And I said to Sam, I said, I fancy myself a 2. And we dropped real lucky on a micro then. This little old woman had owned for years and years, and we went and fetched it, and it had everything there. It was the right shell, it was the right engine, the right box in it. It had the right rad in it, and we kind of just went straight on from there. And then when we come back to the yard, within an hour of getting off the trailer, we were stripping it. It was kind of from there on. Then it all went forward. But I just remember going up the yard and I said that I fancy having a go now. And I probably didn't tell my mum and dad for 3 or 4 months. I wanted to keep it a surprise. I wanted to do the car to then show them.
Yeah.
But I think Martin had rung Dad or something and said, "Oh, your Connor's car's going in for blasting next week." I'm like, bloody hell.
What's he got? What's he got?
Yeah, and that's how it kind of stemmed then. And Dad was like, "Oh, I've heard you got a car," and this, that, and the other. And and that's how it kind of all stemmed from there then, really. Yeah.
Did you tell the little old lady what you were going to do with it?
I told her I'd send her some photos of it, and I never did. I said I'll look after it and cherish it, and I never did.
You could have offered it. She could have had a race in it. So you would build it, and obviously you would use your experience with your job and with helping out. Obviously, like I say, helping your dad maintain the car. So you'd use that experience to build your own. But you went quite bold with where you wanted to debut your car.
Yeah,
because you decided. I hope I'm right. That car, you debuted it at the NEC.
Yeah.
So you're building your very first car. Yes, you've got some experienced help on hand, but you are building a car yourself where you have, as maintaining, yes, you've got that, but building a car, your experience is a lot more limited compared to all the cars which would go on that show. So, like, knowing that your car was going to be on a public display, I mean, when it goes to a Grassing meeting, yes, you get some attention when it's all new and shiny and that, but you don't get that sort of attention. So, was you a bit nervous about it going on show? And
yeah.
What was your thoughts and feelings of it when you? Because it's in your workshop, in your garage, and the lights are might be a bit dim and all. It's not quite. But then when it's under those lights on show, where it's all nice and clean and everything's immaculate. I'm sure you were very proud of the outcome, but what did you really feel when the car was put on that display?
I thought I'd never do it again. The arguments that me and Sam had over petty things, colour, wheels. He said, put some mini lights on it. I said, no, I'm not putting mini lights. I can't afford the mini lights.
Yeah.
He said, put mini lights on it. I said, I don't want mini lights. And I ended up buying them wheels that were on it were off a Mazda drift car that my mate had got. And we milled the centres out on the wheels, and I put them on. I said, look, it's something just slightly different. And then Rory painted it for me, Simon Blow, and then like Pryor stickered it and all that. And like, to be fair, very proud. And I've always said I wish I'd have stripped it down and just put the shell in the roof and never used it, because the hours and hours that went into that car, and it very nearly didn't make it into the show. As you know, very, very unfortunately, Goldie had that terrible fire at the yard, and like Martin and Sam and everyone, they lost their business. But there was a lot of stuff in the yard that was mine, like my seat and my harnesses and stuff like that, and like my wiring loom, and you know what I mean, all them little niggly bits. Because Rory, that night, we'd taken all the car, the beam, and all the bottom arms and everything up to Rory to paint. So the bulk of it was with us, but it was all them little bits that were in there. And
it still costs money to replace, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Super Phil was in the show that year as well. And we both said, right, we're going to pull out. And we both messaged Diane and said, look, we can't do it, this, that, and the other. And Martin turned around. He says, well, you better message her again because we ain't got nothing to do. He said, there's nothing I can do, is it? He said, we need something to do. So, like, kind of without him, I had never, ever got to that show, really. And that's kind of how it stemmed. And, like, to look at it then and the finished product and all the comments I had, this is gospel truth, I never had one bad comment on it. Everyone was, good. I don't know what people say when they walk away, you know what shows are like, but I never had one bad thing. No one come up to me and said, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way, or, oh, that's a bit sharp, or, you know what I mean? It was everything to that car, and I couldn't have done it without like my old man and Goldie and that lot, because the knowledge that them have got, you'll never, ever buy. You know what I mean? Especially Martin, he's a fonter. You tip him upside down for 3 hours and it'd still be coming out of it. He's just, there's such a clever bloke. And I say I wouldn't have ever done it without him. But no, very, very proud. Very proud to have had the car in there.
Well, no, good, but never again.
Never again, no.
Well, no, I mean, you before it went in the show, was you as equally as pleased with it? Did you ever worry like, well, what will people think? Because you know how it can be. You can get people who scrutinise it before ready to be scrutinised. And yeah, so did you have any concerns like, oh, I might not have done this right, or anything?
The only thing I was a bit unsure of was, I can remember Mitch Wells, I think it was. I think the year before or the year after he turned up with that immaculate Class 2 and he had the seat wrapped in it and everything. It was like, and Mitch come up to me and he said, like, it's really tidy. He said, fair play. He said, I would advise you. This is where it helped me then in a fashion having it there. He said, knock the arches back. He said, because then we'll catch when you're on full lock. He said, knock that bit up. He said, move that just over there and stuff like that. And it was kind of then it was the people I knew that were just kind of advising me and helping me. And it's stuff that me and Samo hadn't ever thought about while we were doing it. I wouldn't have thought to sledge the arches back. I've looked at hundreds of them, but I'd never noticed it. Yeah.
Well, what would have made it perfect is then if you'd have got a hammer at the show and you started doing it there.
But no, I always said, and I'll stand by it, I wish it broke my heart cutting that car up after it had done a season. And I just wish I'd have stripped it and put it in the roof and left it there. Yeah. Because it'd be hours.
Eventually, you would get on track with it at the beginning of the season. You would actually have quite a decent start. You would win a race or two. That must have been a buzz first off, because like you get out there and you do have a win, but it was a learning experience in more ways than one. I mean, it's a car you built yourself with obviously assistance, but you've got to then learn everything that you've done. And at the time, yes, you can help maintain a car and you can build a car, but there's still bits of setup work you've got to do, and engine setup, suspension setup, and things like that. So it was a bit of a learning thing. But did you have confidence the way through, saying no, we're going to get it right, or were there some times where you maybe thought it got the better of you, but you were determined not to give up?
Me and Sam, he was my right hand man. Like, you know what I mean? I can never thank you enough for all the help that he helped me with that car. And the first few meetings, it was steady away, and it was just trying things here and there. Not really getting any major results or anything like that. Went to a qualifier, I think it was, and I'd had like a fourth, but that was, at the time, there was you'd got Matt Morris, Joe in Tim's old car. You'd got Lee Everson and all that lot, and like Vern Jackson and stuff. They were quick lads. Liam as well, and then it kind of come to a head. And I said to Sam, we'd spent hours up at Sam Griffiths' Rolling Road, and we just weren't getting anywhere with the car, and I just couldn't get on with it. And at times I said to Sam, I said, I've had enough. I've had enough. I said, I've had the head off it. I've chopped the box in it. I've done this. I've done that. I said, bought a new exhaust. I said, I'm just getting nowhere with it.
Yeah.
And many people know I had a misfire for like 12 months. Could not shift this misfire for love nor money. You know what I mean, Ross? I'll be honest, I'd blown my brains out on the car.
Yeah.
And it was coming to a stage like I couldn't afford to buy any tyres for it because I'd spent the £100 up at Sam Griffiths'. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. And my faith started dropping out of it then. And Samo said to me, like, he said, why don't we go to the Somerset Grand Prix? And I remember pulling through that gate, and I said, if I don't have a win this weekend, I'm scrapping it. I said, I've had enough. I ain't doing it no more. And that weekend was kind of, I suppose, the beginning of it then. Yeah. Because I went out, I think it was first or second heat, had a win, over the moon. Absolutely over the moon. And then, long story short of it, I won the final then. And coming away from there, going in that gate and saying, no, I've had enough, I'm going to sell it. And then to coming away saying, well, come on, let's go and crack on with the next one. It was like one massive extreme to the next. But I say that 2016 was like where it all started happened. That's where it started, yeah. That's when we had wins at qualifiers and didn't make the nationals. But that was, again, like, that's where I started making my first few finals and stuff then. And that's when it really sort of, I'm enjoying this now.
Good. I mean, so you approached that Somerset meeting sort of wondering why you're even bothering going.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, your whole perspective had turned because something clicked in the car. So you finally got to the bottom of whatever was plaguing you. And the thing is, it when something's not right, it knocks confidence in your own driving ability, I find. So you can pull on the line and then you might be thinking, well, is that sounding right? Is it not? And then you drop the clutch and you go, oh, that didn't pull away quite as well. No. And your whole confidence just goes. But with that, because obviously this was your first full year at it, did you find racing with the people like Lee, who's been obviously running at the top for many years, and other very top caliber drivers in the clubs and the leagues? Did you find that you learned a lot about how to drive the car in the races with other people?
Yeah, I did. Like if you were anywhere near Lee at a qualifier or Matt, like, you know what I mean, you cannot take the driving off them two boys. They're someone else. Like in them Novas, Lee, he's the only one I know that can build a Nova year in, year out, and it's fast out the box every single time. And the same with Matty. You know what I mean? If you were up with them two, you were doing well. And it come to a stage of me, because I was never near them as such, it was kind of a lot of YouTubing, watching them on YouTube. And you know what I mean? If I can remember the one meeting, I said to Tom, he can have a go in it. And Tom, I think, had just come out of juniors, if I remember, or he just started in his sixth, and I said he can have a go in it. And that day at North Shropshire, I just marshalled, and I watched Lee, how they're coming in. They're not coming in like a bat out of hell, you know what I mean? I thought, well, he's breaking it down there, and he's not full lock, and he's just neatly. And that's kind of how you learn a lot by watching. And like Josh said, you drive like Fowler. He said you're just driving a faster Class 1, basically. He said you've got to be. He said if you've got 60 horse, you've got to come out of that bend with 59 horse. You've got to drive it. And yeah, I had me fair few run-ins with people and flags here and there. I remember your dad giving me a black flag and stuff like that.
Good old dad.
And I remember that in the top corner. I thought, I haven't done nothing for a change, and I genuinely hadn't done nothing, and it was rescinded. I remember that. But you know what I mean? But to anyone that's starting, is definitely you've got to learn a bit and watch first. And the neater the faster, but it's just one thing I couldn't really. I think I was bulling a China shop 99% of the time.
I always found when I was in Class 2, I admit I'm quite heavy-footed, so I'm either on the pedal or off the pedal, and I'm sort of one where it took me a while to learn. Like in a class 1 and a 2, you see them all shuffling the wheel, and I'm just turn it in.
That's it. Yeah.
And I tell you, I fully agree with you. Watching from the infield,
you learn so much.
It's completely different from seeing it from the outside. I mean, you watch any class and you see how they come into the corner, and it's like when I was in class 9, I was watching some drivers and like the real top drivers at the time, and you watch them and you listen to them coming out the corner, and if depending on the track conditions, say if it were polished, they'd be sort of like real gentle on it. But they'd be down the road to where those chasing them are like doing 9,000 revs, trying to keep up. And you wouldn't like, well, that's why he's getting away, because he's not just wheel spinning by planting the throttle. And I definitely say if anybody can get on the track and actually marshal and view it from there, that's definitely something that needs to be done.
It's the best spectator point for the whole field.
Oh yeah, definitely. When you see 8 cars charging to that first corner, if you're on turn 1, you're going to get a good corner every time. Yeah. So you say 2016, it suddenly turned. I mean, did you carry on with the same car, or was it a new one? Because
complete new car,
completely new. So
completely
thought, right, you've had a fairly tough year, but it sort of ended a lot better than it started. But you decide, right, we're going to learn from it now, and we're going to go in clean slate. We're going to put everything that was right into the new car, and then hopefully go from there, because you'd had that learning bit. And 2016 went all right. As you say, you made the map open final, which is one of, I mean, you've got your Baz round finals, but the standalone finals, you've got nationals and Baz, nationals and map. They're the big two. So you must have been elated to make that final and be in that group.
Yeah, I remember it was, we'd had a bit more money on board. I think Dad had sponsored me some tyres that year as well. And I had 2 new tyres for the map. And if I remember right, it had either rained in the night or they bladdered it. And I was grid 8 and she just trapped out the gate. It was like, this was in the first heat. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And I thought, well, I'm at the map and I'm leading a heat here.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of, you know what I mean? So when we got to the map, then I think I'd had a win or something at the qualifiers, and that was a buzz. So then go into the map. And the week before that, I wrote my car off at start, the new car.
Really?
It was annihilated. I got hooked in the back, and it half spun me, and I got hit by 2 cars, and it completely knackered at the beam and everything. The shockers were bent and all sorts. It knocked the carb off. It was that hard of an hit. Snapped the torque tube. So me and Sam had run round for a week. We got the car and we just started it up, and he said, there's something different about this. He said, it sounds real crisp after we'd had a play with it.
Because the carb weren't on it.
Yeah, he said it's like it was real crisp, and he had a good feeling, and for him to have a good feeling about something, I thought, well, we've got to be onto something here. So I say first heat, won it, absolutely over the moon, and I think I had a second in the second heat, and then whatever on the Sunday, and I qualified. I think it was 6th or 7th qualifier.
Yeah.
To get in that final, I could have done a million laps around there. I was that overwhelmed with it. You sat on the start line, you've got all them people, you think they're all watching me here, and like my dad said, he said you've done well to make a final, really well. So yeah, that's kind of where it sort of stemmed from then, and I'll never ever forget it. I know my mates take the mick out of me now, but I always say you've got to remember your first big final, because that's all I ever go on about, you say. The amount of times I've sat here and Kelly, I've made her watch it and stuff. She's like, well enough now. But no, like I say, I'll never ever forget that. And I there were so many people I could have thanked that weekend. Yeah. It was brilliant, really good. And that's then where I just wanted to do it every week.
Yeah. So the passion to actually race had come back. It sparked from the year before at Somerset.
Yeah,
that's what really got you into it. But I mean, I'll admit I've tried no end of times to make finals. Like when I was in class 9, I thought I've got the car here to get in the final every meeting, and I only ever made 2 BAS finals in my lifetime with it, and I should have done a lot more. But still, the feeling, it was at Evesham as well for me.
Yeah,
first BAS finals, or first big final. I had made MAP final, I think, that a couple of years that year as well, but Class 9 was a bit low on the ground, and that. But at the BAS there was a few more, and no, definitely to actually achieve getting into that group of top racers who are in that final, it's definitely something else, and a feeling you can't get rid of.
No,
you would progress further. I think 2017 would be a better year. You would grow even further as a racer, and you sort of get like, I belong with these now, racing week in, week out. I'm not racing for 5th, 6th places anymore. I'm actually racing for top 3s and heat wins and that. I believe you'd made a few big finals along the way in BAS rounds. You'd scored some good results. You made the nationals that year as well? Is that correct?
Yeah.
2017. So what was that like as an achievement for you? Because obviously you're qualifying against BAS final caliber drivers.
Yeah.
So that must have been good as well.
That 2017 car was the first car I built on my own.
Okay.
And I had everyone knows about it. Me and Sam had that very, very unfortunate falling out, but we're well over that now. We're big boys, you know what I mean? And at the time, we didn't really get on, but I did that on my own. And I started that in my shed, and I thought, and I can always remember thinking, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do this on my own? I need some help. And I thought, I've just got to persevere and do it. And I did it. And you know what? It was the best thing I ever did. Dad, and it was either Dad or my granddad, they bought me a full set of new shockers for it. I'd had a decent JAC exhaust for it. My dad had done the motor. I think, I can't remember who did the head on it, but everything on the car was just perfect. You know what I mean? And I'd got it to how I wanted. And I always remember Samuel coming up to me and saying, like, well done, it looks really good. He said, fair play to you. First meeting out was at Star, I think it was, went out, had a win. And I thought, Christ, here we go.
That is that's as good a feeling as making a big final. First meeting of the year, if it works straight out the box.
Yeah, and it did. And like, you know what I mean, second race, second, and then I'd have another win. And then you'd be looking, as you do, at the qualifying points all the way through. And it's like, 1 week it was me, then it was Lee, and then it would be, I'd had a bad run. I remember having a knock and I bent the bottom arm. So we had a rerun, put a bottom arm on it, went out first corner, the ball joint fell out the bottom arm. So I had a DNF then.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And I thought, God, it's going downhill again now. And the last qualifier, there was me and another lad joint on points, and he had a Nova. And when you're over rev them Novas, they do
hydraulic.
Oh, hydraulic, that's it. Anyway, he'd come off the thing and it had gone from to nothing. And I thought, Christ, that's it. And what he'd done is he'd hydraulic it, but blowed an hole through the block as well. So I thought, right, that's him out the equation. All I had to do when I worked it out in the pits, and this is where Missy Mosley comes into play now, because she's brilliant at maths. And she worked it out. She said, all you've got to do is finish them races, and you're through to the nationals. And I think Lee had walked it completely. He was well away. But we never know how many are going. There might be 1, 2 or 3 of us, weren't there? And there was 2 of us that year, and it was me and Lee. And over the moon. That was the one I'd always wanted to get to. And when I did it and pulled up on that, like, to the nationals, and it was me that was sat in the lanes ready for scrutiny, and everyone was watching me. And
your name was in the program. That's
stupid. And it's like, I've still got that program, and it's like, I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. I was that happy with it. And then I say we had a real good run then. We were like nationals. We were Mallow, national. So national qualifier. Mallow, Bassett made the final there. YD made the final there. I missed out 1 point, I think, at South Wales Bass.
Right.
To Paul Melly. He squoze up the inside of me on the last corner. Had an awful run at Stroud. Awful. I think we had an all right run. I think I finished 6th overall that year in the Bass. And I'd said I wanted to be top 10. So that year was brilliant, like really good.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have ever envisioned it though, could you? When you first started building a car and racing a car, because you had no confidence at the beginning of it.
No, nothing.
You'd built a car which you loved because you built it. It looked very nice. It was on show and all that. But racing it, you didn't really have much confidence in that first year at all.
No.
As we said, if there is issues with the car, it does knock you back so much. And then when it happens every week and you're not getting to the bottom of it. But to go in that short time, in a few years, to be up there, I mean, yeah, definitely. And yeah, you can't have a better feeling of achieving your goals that you set out. I mean, you set realistic goals. Everybody wants to win everything, of course.
Yeah.
Well, right. I want to heat win at a club meeting. I want to qualify for the nationals. I want to make a BAS final. I want to make this final. And yeah, you've set your realistic targets. And as I say, not everybody can reach those targets.
No.
And you have. So you must feel obviously very proud of everything that you've done. What would you say would have been your greatest achievement up to then? Would it have been getting to the nationals? Would it have been that first big final?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Put you on the spot.
I'm gonna say Mallow, because Mallow was the first big final. And obviously after that, after the first BAS, I think we had qualifiers, because we run our qualifiers quite late through to near, like the end, really. And yeah, Mallow went over there, no expectations at all. And I took the car to Colin at SMMC, because unfortunately Sam had died by this point at DNG. So that was a hard thing as well, finding someone else to do the car. And Josh had said, try Colin. He's like really good. He looks after my stuff. And Colin, I can't thank him enough, because the hours he spent doing that car with me in that garage, and you know what I mean? And he wouldn't give up until it was sorted. It was like another Sam in a man's body. Yeah. And I think from when I took it to him and he started saying, this is making really good power, but we can get a bit more, we can do this. And I think that's where the confidence grew in it. But then going to Ireland and ringing him after, I think it was my second heat, I'd had a second. I'd had a good run in the first and a second. And you know what I mean? He was over the moon for me. And he said, well, pull your finger out your arse. He said, you'll get in that final. And I had a good run on the Sunday morning. And yeah, just hearing your name called out on that tannoy, I remember I looked at my dad and I was like, he said, because Dad, I don't think Dad made the final. Joe wasn't racing. He was on his year out. And I don't think Tom made the final either. So out of all of us that went, it was me and Josh Fowler. Yeah. And yeah, I didn't come away with the pot. I finished fifth, I think, in the final. But just saying I'd been in that final with all them top lads, brilliant.
Good. Well, you would actually achieve something bigger than a trophy anyway, because you would end up actually stepping back a bit from driving, because you become a dad instead, and now you're a dad twice.
Yeah.
Which obviously changes the perspective on life.
Yeah,
it has mine. I'm sure it has yours. Just to go into the family life a little bit. Your eldest boy, Freddie, he's now growing up pretty quick, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Does it look like he's going to carry on the family name? And is he getting in the garage yet? Getting in the bucket of oil?
He does have a mess about with me in there when I'm tatting about at the weekends and stuff. But Freddie is obsessed with bikes.
Oh dear.
Absolutely obsessed with them. And I bought him a little quad bike at Christmas, and he loves it. Absolutely loves it. And like, you know, I said to Kelly that to see a 2.5-year-old lad riding this quad round the field like he does, he's got no fear. And he come off it a couple of weeks ago at the father-in-law's field, and he says, I says, come on, mate. I said, you've got to get back on it now. And he's, no, I don't want to. I says, come on. I said, you've got to be really brave. No, don't want to. And he just looked at me and says, can we go to the sausage roll shop now? Meaning Greg. And you know what I mean? He's, like Kelly said, he's just got that little character coming out in him so much. And then, as you know, say me and Kelly, we've had a little in Eli, and you know what I mean? They're both just besotted with each other.
That's good.
But like I say, I don't know. True, that's gospel truth. Freddie, he loves going and sitting in Dad's car and Joe's and Tom's and stuff like that. And he'll, in the summer, he was washing them off with a bucket and sponge, and he loves all that aspect of it. But I think he's at that age where he's a little bit wary of everything still, and it's, you know what I mean. But I think he'll be more towards the bikes. Freddie will, but whatever he wants to do, I'll follow him. Same with Eli. Whatever he wants to do, because Eli will sit there and watch the bikes on the telly as they do, then they just stare at it. But you know what I mean? He does. I think that's the route they'll take. But if he turned around to me and said, I want to race a car, I'll do my utmost to give him the best that I can possibly do. And I'd give everything up, as Kelly has said, we'd give everything up to get them two boys where they want to be and happy. And if they do want to do it and they don't like it, then we've tried.
I can see him getting a toolbox for Christmas anyway at one point.
Yeah, they'll have one.
Well, no, that's good. The generations keep on coming through, don't they? And it's amazing what they can do at an early age and what they're going to grow up into. It's scary at the same time, I can admit.
It is. But, when he's on that quad, I'm such a nervous wreck. And like Kelly would say, just leave him. And Samo was the same when I've been up to his, and he said, just leave him. Just honestly, just leave it. And he stuck to it.
It's normally the other way around. It's normally that the father's normally the confident one.
Oh, I know, but he's such a accident-prone boy, Fred, it appears. And like Eli at the minute, he's a settee. He's like his mom. He loves the telly and stuff like that. So at the minute, Fred, he's kind of just here, there, and everywhere. But I've learned just to kind of, you got to let him grow up and have a bump, ain't you? And stuff like that. So, but whatever they want to do, they can do.
Jolly good. Well, back to you. The year after 2018, you'd get the car back up and running. You'd start the season all right, but you had, I believe, your first ever rollover.
Yeah.
What was that like as an experience?
The roll itself wasn't too bad. It was that was at North Shropshire's, our current track, and that field had only ever been ploughed in its life, and before that it was an airfield.
Yeah.
So we'd done all the work we could. Coming to the first corner, I had just a slight nudge. It dug in and tipped me over. But what was the more worrying thing was all the fuel and everything coming out of the overflow. And you know what I mean? I've never wanted to get over a car so quick. I watched a video. I think it went over 3 times, and I got hit in the pillar of the roof, just the bit here.
Yeah.
And that spat me over again. And then, but it was just the initial shaking up and getting out. Didn't frighten me, I'll be honest. Like some of my mates will say, "Oh, it frightened you. That's why you got rid of it." But it didn't. It didn't frighten me at all. The worrying factor was all that fuel and everything. So, but yeah, that was. I think I did 3, maybe 4 meetings in it. Had a good offer on it. Sold it.
Were you the first one over at the new track then?
First one. I was the first one of the pipes to have a win.
Yeah.
And I was the first pipe to roll. Now we've all rolled, bar Dad. We've all rolled.
You've cursed him now.
Yeah. Joe had a roll at North Shropshire. Tom had a roll at Somerset Bass.
Yeah.
And then I had a roll at North Shropshire.
But you were the first person to roll on that new track, was it? Or had anybody?
Yeah. No, I was the first person to roll there.
So there you go. You can get a signpost put up with your name on it. I was the first person to roll here.
But it was funny because the week after I'd gone up there for a walk with the dog, and I walked down to the bottom corner and I found the platform off my shocker. I found something else at the exhaust shield had come off out the car. That was up by the marshal's post. So I found everything I needed to put it all back together.
Yeah.
It was same.
Well, so you'd sell the car, and you seem to grow more of an interest in building the cars instead. Was it before then that you decided I'm going to make something of putting cars together, or was it at that moment you thought, nah, I've got a family now. The kids are young. I don't want to scare them by going out there and doing something. When did it decide that you was going to focus on building cars? Because now you're actually a classed as a constructor. You
Mm.
build cars for other people, not just yourself.
Yeah.
When did that decision come around?
That had come before I'd done my own. So you remember I was getting that peed off, pushing my car out to get someone else's in, to put mine in another barn, to get it back in and stuff like that. But yeah, I did. I suppose I concentrated on them a little bit more after I sold them. I've probably done 5 or 6 since then.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year and this year has just been dead. I'll admit that. I've had a couple of repaneling jobs and stuff like that, but other than that, I've had absolutely nothing. But speaking to other lads that do bits and pieces, they're the same. They're just as quiet. So it's nice to know it's something I haven't done, if you like. But yeah,
well, the problem is if there's no racing happening, there's no cars getting damaged, and there's nobody wanting to have a new one, is there? So
no. But then the other way of looking at it is it gives them lads that, like myself, that aren't made of money. It gives them lads a chance to save up for something that they really want. And you know what I mean? I'm happy to work with people on things and stuff like that. And I do my best for them. I'll be honest, I've had a couple of little comebacks. Nothing too major. Try and put it right for them. But that's the best you can do. Because with our job, as you know, word travels very, very, very fast.
Oh, yeah.
So I try to do my best for them. But I would like to carry on doing it. I would love to carry on doing the cars. But yeah, 2s I think is my main focus because I know my way in and out of them.
Yeah, well, one of the first people I don't know how it happened. Hopefully you're going to say now, but one of the first people you actually worked with was somebody not even local to you. I hope I'm correct. It was Callum Hallinan.
Yeah, Cal.
How did that come about? Because obviously he's based across the water. I mean, how did it come about where he comes to you or you approach him like we're going to build a car? How did that happen?
I'd done a few up until that point. I'd done some for a couple of like local lads round here. Done like it was more of a convenience because like you've got Darren who's down by Hardy's Gloucester. I think he's up that way. There wasn't really anybody in the centre. So I'd done a few little bits and pieces and stuff like that. And then it was at YD Bass. So 2017, I think it was. I think it was 2017. I can't remember. And I had, on the micros, you've got an engine mount on the side, and it's just literally a steel bracket with 3 bolts going into some lugs, and they'd snapped off. So I managed to tap it out, put some bigger bolts in it to hold it together and get me going. Anyway, the other engine mount had collapsed. So I'd walked round, nobody had got a spare mount. Nobody at all had got one in that field. And Callum was parked 3 or 4 cars up from me. And I said to him, have you got one? And he said, I'll show you a trick. And he pulls out of his toolbox a tube of Hylamar gasket glue and a ruck of nuts, bolts, washers, the lot. And he emptied his toolbox on the floor, put my mount in it, filled it full of this gunk, wedged all these bolts into it, wrapped them up. He said, that's how you do them in the island. And I said, Christ, and he got me out in that final. Without him, I don't know, I wouldn't have got in that final.
Really?
The engine mount was nothing. There was nothing. And I just kind of grew. I messaged him like, thank you so much, you know what I mean, for helping me and getting me out. I wouldn't have thought to have wedged that with bolts and stuff like that and get me back out. And that's how it kind of stemmed. And then he said that he was after a car, hadn't really got the time with work commitments and stuff like that to do it. And do you know what? I think an awful lot of that lad. I probably don't speak to him as much as I should do and stuff like that. We do keep in touch, but I haven't heard off Cal for a while now. But absolutely brilliant lad. His mum and dad, salt of the earth as well. His brother, you know what I mean? He's one of them lads, just such a nice lad. And he'll make all the time in the world to speak to you. I bumped into him at Penno Bass. Next thing you know, an hour and a half's gone by. We're at the beer tent having a couple of beers and stuff like that. And I think probably that was the last time I actually saw him, to be fair, as many people.
Yeah. Well, that's the frustrating thing, isn't it? We've not seen anybody for so long. But so you would end up, because Callum's busy with his day-to-day life, you've ended up taking the role on and building a car. Was it the full car you built him then? Or
It
most of?
was I went and bought a shell for him off someone down Cambridge way. I remember going to fetch it, and so it was a complete road car when I got it. And we'd done the deal. He wanted the shell and all the running gear, and I think I had the engine and box out of it.
Right.
And so I kept the engine and box as a spare for mine. He'd had the shell, and so yeah, started off stripping it. First thing I did then was send it for dipping and blasting, get all the way out of it, then you know what you've got when you come back then. And I think he wanted a couple of patches here and there. And I don't know, there was just something about that car that everything went right. You know what I mean? I didn't have a cock up on the arches. There was no rot in it. Everything just went back together fine. And if I remember right, I got that into a rolling state, all brake piped up for him, and all he had to do when he got it back was paint it, sticker it, and put it together.
Yeah.
Class 2 boys, you know what they're like, very secretive. You're not seeing my exhaust, you're not seeing my inlet and stuff like that. Cal wasn't like that, to be fair. He helped me a lot, to be fair. And, you know what I mean? It was kind of one of them, really. But yeah, built that car up, and he was in the NEC with it in the January, and he rung me up on the Saturday night, I think it was. He said, I've got a bit of a problem. Dan McKenzie's given me the door. So Dan was the first person to doze him in the side of that car. He bent all the door and the B-pillar and everything. It was just one of them. But I think if I remember, we straightened it all out and stuff like that. And he went out, and that was it, to be fair. But no, he had a good lad, Cal. Oh, as they all are. All the lads I've done cars for, all real good lads, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's kind of how it all stemmed from there, really.
So was the car that you did then, was that not the national?
No, the car that I did was for the year after, but all of his. Do you know what? I can't remember if I had the old car in my shed. I can't remember if he brought the old car for me to get bits off to then put on the new car. I can't just remember. Right. But the car I'd done for him was for the year after.
Right.
And then I did that year as well. I did Matty Barber's car, which Sarah Trott won the Nationals with at Cumby. So that was kind of the first car, second meeting out, won the Nationals.
Well, that was the same year Callum won at Cumby, wasn't it?
Unless I'd done Matty's the year before then. I must have done
I remember, actually. It slipped my mind as well. But it was sort of going to bring me on to the next point anyway. But how, for you, obviously with the road you've travelled down with quite a few bumps, but then you've gone on to this part of your life, which might not have happened, but it has. Obviously, everybody wants to win these major events, but how did it feel to you when you see a car that you have had such an involvement in actually winning the biggest event in the sport, the Nationals? I mean, that's probably the second biggest achievement outside the driver winning.
Yeah, I was over. To be fair, to see any car out there I've done, even that I've panelled for the lads, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, to see them out there and just then have my name on the boot lid and stuff like that, it's quite a surreal feeling, to be fair. But like I say, it was Sarah that would have drove it that year. So Matty had made the final that year as well, the year Callum had won. So yeah, it was a year after I'd done Callum's car. Seeing Matty make the final, like I spoke to him all weekend, I was helping him, he was over the moon. I think after the Nationals, I think I had the car back, or I'd done a ruck of bits for Matty because he'd had a bit of a knock in it and stuff like that. But yeah, to see someone out there and the lads coming in with a smile on their face as well and stuff like that, it's nice to kind of feel that bit of appreciation as well, I suppose. It's all right.
Good. Well, like I say, the outside actually being the driver, being the person who has had the involvement in putting that car together as such, then it's got to be a great sense of proudness and achievement. So obviously then you've stepped out the car yourself, you're building them, you've been putting stuff together. Have you found that actually being in the driver's seat has helped you with your work of putting cars together?
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying, by being in the car and knowing how it goes, how it handles, has it helped you with how you've gone on to build and do stuff for customers as such?
Yeah, because they'll say to me they want things doing a certain way and stuff like that, each to their own, isn't it? And I can understand where they come from now and why they want to do things like that. And you know what I mean? When I first started, it was always, oh, you can have your cage 3 inches in front of the pillar, and you want to get as far forward as you can. But that ain't all it's made to be, because you're driving like this, then, aren't you? And
yes,
and stuff. Like, you mean, comfort's the biggest one. And Martin Gould, he told me that you've only got to watch Martin, haven't you? And he's like that driving normally, and he's just winning a final, and he's just like.
Yeah, I mean, I know of Martin, but I don't know him as personally as you do. But he looks one of the most relaxed people that you could ever see.
Oh, he is. I've never seen that. Well, I've never seen him angry, and you know, he's so cool and calm and collective. But then having that input off like my dad and Joe and Tom, I always remember Joe saying to me, he said, "Don't fucking rev it on the line." He said, "Drive it like you're driving the works van off the traffic lights."
Well, yeah, because that's the weird thing about Class 2. I mean, when I first started in Class 2, you'd be sat on the line and everybody's revving it flat out.
Yeah.
And then it suddenly changed as the class evolved. And now, Class 2's on the line, there's like no noise.
No.
And then and you're like, well, what's happening?
It's like going back to the car building and stuff, like Dave Harris and Sharon. Like, you know, they own Repco and stuff like that. And they were a big help. I helped them with certain bits, like when Dave was doing a lot of the micro grills and the Nova stuff. He wanted templates and he wanted this. And I said to him, I'm sick of finding roofs to cut the skin out of them to plate the sunroofs up. I said, is there something we can do to make a plate for the roof? And he did, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. And Dave, then he if I remember right, him and Sharon bought a house, and he kind of, just like me, took a step back from it a little bit, from the Repco side. Still going.
Brilliant. Great guy as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Whatever you want, he'll do. And like, it come to a head, I think, like with the poly bushes in the back arms and stuff, and they were saying you can't run this, you can't run that, but you can't. The NASA have to learn that you can't get certain things. But then to have that input into all that and making them little changes happen as well, like we all know the famous Class 2 shockers, don't we, and stuff like that. The amount of conversations people have had about them, and it's all well and good saying you can run this, you can run that, but there's lads out there like I was that couldn't afford a set of extracts and stuff, and they've got to stuff like that. But it's nice having that input into it as well, and kind of in a fashion being noticed. And I suppose the best feeling of it is someone coming up to me and saying, "You did a car for such and such. I'd quite like one done. I seen the work you did on it. I was really impressed with it," and stuff like that. And that's kind of a nice feeling coming away from a meeting knowing you've got 1, 2, 3 cars to do, and that's because people have been talking about you, and you know what I mean. That's kind of, I quite enjoy that side of it as well. Coming, feeling appreciated for a change.
Yeah. Because you could finish a meeting on a Sunday, and by Tuesday you might get a phone call which could turn into just sorting out a few parts, but it could end up being a full car, so you don't know what it's going to be. And to get that phone call initially, it's obviously, well, I'm doing something right. So people continue. Your main focus, as you said, was sort of Class 2s. That's where you started. I'm sure you're still learning it away, as everybody does. We all learn things day by day. But Class 2 seems to be a bit of a focus for you. But is there anything else you'd like to have a go at, grassing-wise, building? Like, is there another class you'd like to have a go at putting a car together for? Or is really Class 2 just where you're happy being?
I'm happy with my 2s because I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
I remember the first Nova I had, and in the shed, and I was like, I haven't got a clue here. I don't know what's what. You know what I mean? And stuff to it. And the micros, not blowing my own trumpet, I kind of know them through and through now. I know I can build a good light shell, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And I don't know, I don't know really. I would like to, I quite like the idea of like people coming to me. I find it, as staff to sounds quite therapeutic. So JS, Class 8, 9 or 10, someone come up to me, say, fully strip it, get it dipped, powder it, get all my panels done, anodise this, get all that, and put that back together for me.
Yeah,
I quite like the idea of doing something like that because one, there's not much to them, but it's the end result. Like I mean, you've seen it. You get sick to death of seeing a car in primer, don't you? Or
oh yeah,
sick to death of it with not putting a door on it. And
I tell you, it's like when you get a special, like when I'm in class 9, you see it at the end of the season. It's scratched. It's looking a bit tired. When you first see it come back from powder coaters and it's that shiny new colour,
you know what I mean. It's something like that. I quite enjoy doing all that. Stuff like that. So there's an advert if anyone wants one doing.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, that's kind of the thing I would like be interested in. I got asked to do a class 7 pickup shell. That one, I can't remember why it never come through in the end. But I suppose I've done my bits. Like I did a bit on Mike Hill's A35. I've done paneling. Obviously, I've done the builds for the cars and full builds. I did a class 4 for Dave Faulkner. He had a Riley Elf.
Oh yeah,
which I think was Luke, someone from, I want to say it was from Severn Valley.
I'm trying to remember myself now.
Is it Summit Cumberthwaite?
James Cuthbertson.
Cuthbertson, that's him.
Yes.
Yeah, it was his old car.
Yeah.
And it was when bolt-off shells then were allowed in, and Dave wanted his convert into a bolt-off shell, and I did that for him. That was a job. You're cutting through like arches on a Mini that have been there forever, haven't they?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But it's sometimes you've got to take a step back and think, right, look at it, and think, that's how I'm going to do it. But like I see Lee Seagraves and the cars he turns out, them specials, like Heidi's class 10. Oh, yeah.
Well, speaking to Heidi last week about it, I mean, it's a hell of a job that they've done.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. But Lee, as you know him as well as me, like such a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And something like that I'd love to do. I'll tell you what I'd love to do is something like that Hereford Bull that Vinnie Gibbons has got. And bring something like that back into light that he can take to the Nationals and do a few laps with it to show everybody.
Yeah, well, Vinny did that once, and then the car ended up in a sorry state again. I think Vinny sold it, and it ended up just in a barn. And then my dad actually ended up with the car, and he was going to restore it.
Yeah.
With the ambition of taking it to the Autosport show. Obviously, sadly, that never happened. My dad got the engine running because
I remember,
they got it rigged up, fuel in, fired straight up, absolute beauty. And then my dad got the chassis shot blasted, so it was all completely stripped chassis, shot blasted. My dad was after some wheels and some other bits, and then he was going to get it put back together, and obviously, sadly, that never happened. Vinny's got the car back now, just in a lot more pieces than when he dropped it off. But yeah, this is something. I mean, I follow other motorsports, which I'm sure you do. I quite like watching stadium racing, and they've got all these historic formulas like hot rods, stock cars. I'd love to see some old grasses just lined up. Even like there's some cars I don't know whether you'll even remember it, but there's Richard Cottrell. He had a Class 8. He transformed Class 8 in the 90s. The car was unbeatable. He's still got it. The family has still got it as it last raced. And there's some other cars out there. I would just love to see them just parked up together. It'd be better to see him do a few laps on it. But
I say more, it's not like a restoration business or stuff like that.
No.
But I just love it. I'd love to do something for someone to plonk a photo in front of me and go, that was Vinny's car in 1800s, without because he's an old boy, and you know what I mean, and say that was the car then, and that's what I'd like it. That's what it's like now, and I want it to look similar to that. And
you'd want to build a replica then, as such?
I wouldn't say I'd want to build a replica because I think that would finish me off. But I'd like to do something.
Sorry,
go on. No, go on.
No.
I'd like to do something that you can kind of just bring it back to life and everyone can see it and just something different. You know what I mean? I'd like to do something like that if I was going to go that way.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I heard a story about the Hereford Bulls, about how they were part of it was made. Apparently, I can't remember the guy who built them. Was it Mel Carter? I think originally. Well, he used to get the strip of metal for the roof because obviously it was hoops, and he used to wrap it around his tree.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
So if you've got a good enough tree in your back garden,
make a start. Yeah.
So you seem quite keen to keep building cars and working on cars, and in the modern world of Autograss, you are comfortable with Class 2. You're enjoying that side of things. Obviously, Class 2 now, it's at a way where it's pretty much one make dominated, isn't it? The Micras are dominated. The Novas are clinging in there by
the skin of the teeth.
The skin of the teeth. But there is some other stuff coming out now, like the Toyota Yaris's and that. Is there something you'd like to see go into Class 2? Is there anything you've seen out there you think that would make a good Class 2? Obviously, the problem with Class 2 is there ain't no 1300s anymore, and everything's injection. So, I mean, is there anything you've seen out there that would be ideal, or you if the opportunity came, you'd like to have a go at? The other problem with Class 2 is you can't have plastic panels, and a lot of modern small cars have plastic wings and things like that. I suppose that's the other issue. But,
see, I always admired Mark Lane's Fiat Uno that Nicola Bettany raced.
Yeah.
Now, I apologise if this is going to come the wrong way, because he probably did put all the time and effort into it he could. But I think if someone really, really stuck with something like that, I've never had a car rev so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think a Fiat Uno would be really good. But the problem is with them Unos, they're so hard to get hold of. And, you know what I mean? I did that car for Dylan Roach. And after speaking to his brother, Craig, he had an Uno. And he said, like, it's took him years to get the bits for it. And the stuff is so expensive. And Mark Lane, I was talking to him at Radford, and he said, like, the bits are so expensive for him. But I think they are going to have a look at something to modernise the class a bit more. Yes, they brought the Yaris in, which is getting very, very well on in Class 1.
Yeah.
I think with a bit of time and a bit of lenience, because what they've got to understand, these tracks are better than they used to be. But you can't be rolling around on standard chockers.
No.
And stuff like, you know what I mean? They've got to allow, if they're going to do something, say, right, you've got to buy a set of gas shockers for that, and that's it. That's all you can run. And stuff like that. Just make it a little bit more sort of lenient with it all. I haven't had anything to do with any of them Yarises yet. I've done a Class 1, but I've not done anything with a 2. But I think they've got to look and think, right, we need to bring something in now. These Micras are getting few and far between. At one point, I think I had 8 or 9 of them sat in the garden.
Yeah, well, don't forget, like the Novas came out and the Micras, they come out to the mid to late 80s.
Yeah,
I mean they're not new cars, and I mean I don't know what's going to happen with the class, because obviously it is a 1.3, which the Nova is, but the Micras are still effectively a 1200, but slightly modified. But they're not going to bring the class down to 1200 as a rule, in case something comes along in the future. But you can't put it up to 1400 either, because then that messes with Class 5. Unless you say Class 2 is going to be, say, a 1400 front wheel drive only class.
Yeah.
And then you could maybe allow 1400 minis into it instead.
Yeah, it's
or other things.
One. Like, I don't know. It's like the days of the Starlets and the Escorts and that. What that thing Gillard had, is it an Alpha Sud or something?
He had various Alphas. Well, the Alpha Sud's front wheel drive.
But like a lot of them, like they're not allowing rear wheel drive into it, are they, and stuff like that now? And
the problem is that if you can't have in Class 2 an Escort or a Starlet with decent shocks, they're not going to work.
No, the only thing they're any good for is getting out the gate, and that's it.
Yeah, and the problem is now you're not going to find an Escort. No. Because they're silly money, and the Starlets as well. So it's a tricky one. I don't know what's going to happen in 5-10 years.
I think they need to do something to just bring it a bit more modern.
Yeah,
because they keep going on about how the class looks, the classes look dated.
Yeah.
there was that young lad one, there was the Allegro, they didn't like that. There was this and there was that and there was the other and stuff like that. And I think they've just got to think, well, stuff's getting hard to get hold of now.
Yeah.
So
the problem is that they want modern cars, but look at Class 3.
yeah.
I think I don't think there's a car in Class 3. Well, there isn't many cars now are newer than 95.
No. I think the newest one I've seen is, did Jack and Neil Rawlinson, did they do a Peugeot or a Fiesta?
They've got a Peugeot 206, but they're still a 90s car.
Yeah,
206. There was a Toyota Aygo. That's probably the newest Class 3 I think I've seen as a shell. Jeff Gibbs had one. But other than that, I mean, they're all going even older because they're all going 35s and other Austin. I mean, look at Goldie's Nova Saloon. They're using Ford Orions, Volkswagen Polos from the 90s. So I don't know what the outcome could be. I mean, I look at Class 5 and 7 and they're now screwed because all you're going to have is a panel kit for a mini pickup.
Yeah.
So I can't see that changing now for forevermore until they ban panel kits. But yeah, I mean, some classes are now at their peak. Other classes, there's still scope, and I fear that Class 2 is going to get lost in 10 years max.
Yeah, it's hard because, you know what I mean? I had a flip, like, with this lockdown, said I've had enough, I ain't interested, I haven't missed any meetings and stuff like that. And then after talking to you now and seeing bits and pieces and speaking to people, you think, well, I do miss it.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean, I haven't seen a lot of my mates for a long time.
That's the big thing about it.
People are saying they're worrying about the sport and stuff like that. There is going to probably come a time where they're going to have to think, we need to do something to keep it going.
Yeah.
But it's like with all, like I seen someone put on Facebook the other day about electric cars. I think we're well off that. Well off.
It won't work in a grass field.
No,
I'll tell you now.
No, we're well off that. Yeah. I think it would be nice to see something different. To be fair, even if they did a different sort of Class 2 that was purely 1300 and maybe an injection or something like that, or 1200 injection of a commoner car, and then leave the class as it is now.
Yeah.
Kind of.
The problem is it's like the way Class 4 when they upped the CC and all that, or they changed it. It's those who have been dedicated to it for so long. And then suddenly, like, well, you've changed the rules now, and it could price us out of being even like as competitive. So you've got to be careful because you've got to please those who are in it already, but you've got to try and get the interest so more will have a go at it. It's a bit of a two-way swing, and you've got to get that balance.
And you'll never ever please everybody.
No, you won't. No, you've got to learn that. You've got to learn that. As long as you can get most of them on side, then you part way there. Well, just a couple more bits then. I mean, you've sort of said, obviously these lockdowns and that they're frustrating everybody, and it's affected your. Obviously, it's not affected you too much at work. Thankfully, you're still able to work. But this bit that you're doing for the sport and yourself is keeping your own morale up by doing things, putting cars together, doing bits and bobs, helping people out and that. Where do you sort of envision yourself in the future? I know it's obviously difficult to say, but do you fancy another go at racing yourself, or do you think you'll be happy doing work for other people and putting cars together and playing in the workshop instead?
Kelly's not looking, so I'll say yeah. I would like another go. I have literally, to be fair, when I sold my car, I hung on to everything and hung on to it, and I thought, you know what I mean, I ain't going to do anything again. And I got rid of everything, and I mean everything. You know how many spares you'll congregate. Yeah. And I had a little barn full of stuff, and I give it away. And I think all I'm left with now is a few hubs and a boot lid. You know what I mean? I've got nothing left. And I think if I was going to have a go at something, I wouldn't take it as competitively as maybe I did, I'd build myself a little Yaris one, class one or something.
Right.
And the thing is, I enjoy spending the time with the kids now. Like at a weekend, we'll go to the park, or we'll go here, we'll go there, and I'll take Fred on his quad bike, and eventually Eli will be on it as well. And you know what I mean? I've got years ahead of me yet, and I want to see them grow up. I don't want to be stuck in the garage for hours and hours and hours doing my own car to get to a meeting and go and race and stuff like that. So I would like to have a go. I would love to have another go, but as when, I don't know.
I mean, I can relate to it all. I mean, it's like I'm definitely not a mechanically minded person, but I can do bits and pieces, and I'll try and do them. And when I come home from work, the last thing I want to be doing is being out there doing work on the race car. Even washing the damn thing is annoying to me. But then when I go to a meeting, my focus is on so much. I mean, if we've got the car there, I'll be racing. I might have been asked to commentate. I like to do this. I like to go and talk to people on camera and video and take photos and that. So poor Bex is stuck with Oliver all weekend.
Yeah.
And really, I should do more. And
because I look back at it when we were younger, I can only remember in brief bits, we'd get to a meeting, Dad would unload his car, and we were always told then as kids we weren't allowed in the pits. And to be fair, we stuck to it. And you know what I mean? I'm not saying we didn't see my dad, but we'd be with Mum all day. And poor old Mum should be pulling her hair out with 3 boys and stuff like that. And I don't want to leave that responsibility to Kel. Now, when they're a little bit older and they can look after themselves a bit and stuff like that, it'll be probably that bit easier for her then. But like Freddie's getting to that age now where he wants to do everything on his own and stuff like that. And same Eli will come to it, but never say never. I would like to do something, but when, I don't know. Yeah,
well, that's a realistic approach. Obviously, no point in doing much now, is there, at the minute? Because you don't know what's going to happen. So hopefully, as everybody does, though, it will all happen. But looking back one final time on this bit of a journey that you've come, what would you say is your favourite moment for you in the sport?
Ever?
It could be you racing. It could be something you've watched. It could be a race you've watched. It could be the fact that you took this opportunity to build cars, and that. What would you say is your favourite part of being in this sport? It's a big question, I'll admit.
Yeah. First one, I suppose, is the people you know, and I can quite honestly say, like you, I've got friends all over the country, and a lot of us will bend over backwards to do anything for each other. And that's the first thing. You'll never replace your friends in the sport. I don't speak to anybody from like school and college and all that. And you know what I mean? Everyone I speak to is from the racing.
Yeah.
So like your friendship's the first thing, but then like if you were to go to a race, mine would be, of my own, would be going back to that. Yeah, the Nationals was brilliant, but the map had been my first one because that's where it kind of all stemmed. And then, I don't know, like first ever like memory of what kind of dragged me into it was when I was younger. Oh, the baby's going mad in the background. Like the first one, I suppose, was when Dad got back into it and seeing things I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Like I'd heard of coupes and stuff like that, but seeing what they actually do and getting pally with him and stuff like that, you know what I mean? That's a very hard question. You could give 1,000,001 answers.
Oh yeah.
But like, I suppose seeing things you've never seen, like going back to that one where I went to Star with Dad for an hour and seeing that car of Tommy Law's, I was like, fucking hell, and stuff like that. But no, definitely friends, map, and then I suppose you could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Certain things.
As a memory, then, I mean, obviously we did mention it right near the beginning, but when you watch that video back, which I put on the other night of your dad at Landau getting second at the Nationals, what was that like watching it back?
I've seen it a couple of times because we've got a video, and I've seen it. But I always remember Dad saying then, I think he'll correct me. He did the car. He went out in the first one, got red flagged. The car wouldn't start when it was hot then.
Yeah.
And because something to do with the rad, it was a really hot weekend and it wouldn't start. Anyway, he managed to get it started on like the second to last lap, and he pootled round and he had a stone dead last, but he got the points for it.
Yeah.
Went out so I think he had 2 wins and a last, and he made the final. But I can remember as a kid, me and Joe running up to the fence when he was coming round on the truck and shouting and screaming and stuff like that. But to see the video go back, not a lot has changed.
No,
really, has it? You know what I mean? They're still very similar to how they were. Like seeing that thing of Derek Lynch's, I can remember he turned out a real nice car always.
Oh yeah.
But that's the car I can remember. And like I always remember Tipton's. Did he have a Toyota 1000? Was it?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I remember that. And I always said if I found one of them, I'd have one on the road. I thought they were a beautiful looking car.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's the older memories that stick in your head, if you like. But going to the Nationals at Landau, that was the one I can remember because, well, that's the one that always sticks in my head because it was the one that Dad very, very, very nearly won.
Yeah.
And it was the same at Severn Valley. I think it was when the year did Cusack win it twice?
No, he won it once. Stroud in
I remember 06.
06.
Same as Joe Butler. I remember that year.
Yeah, it was 06.
But then I think Cusack was leading it. I can't remember who actually won it, but Dad finished second at that Nationals, I think, at Severn Valley. And he had the Micra. He had the yellow Micra.
Ooh, you've got me now.
Goldie got hit on the first corner and it bossed his shaft out of the car. He couldn't get back out in the final.
Oh, that was 2013. That was the wet one. That's Joyce won it.
Yeah,
Joyce won it.
And rerun. And I can remember that. And Dad, like, he very, very nearly won it there. And I'd love to see him win something one day. Hopefully he does. But he's someone I've kind of always looked up to in the racing side of it because he's always just got it right every time. Well, in my head, he's always just got it right. You know what I mean? And Dad's been one that's never been mad on graphics. He's never been mad on this. He's mad on that. Everything on the car is right. And then he'll just bang a set of door numbers on if needs be.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I think that's kind of where my inspirations all come from. And Dad's, I think Dad's only ever turned around to me once and said, well, fuck, you made a cock up of that, haven't you? But you know what I mean? But he'll tell me straight and stuff like that. But 90% of the time, the stuff that comes out my shed, he's like, yeah, you've made a tidy job of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He always kind of fills me full of praise, if you like, most of the time. But then I suppose there's times where you disagree on something, isn't there, and you have a fallout here and there, but he is 9 times out of 10, he's right.
Yeah, well, like I say, we're always learning, and we no matter what, you still take the advice given, whether you believe it or not. He might tell you something, you might walk up and think, "Freaking hell, what was he on about?"
Yeah, many a time.
Yeah. Well, I've learned an awful lot about you. I mean, we've spoken on occasions. I remember. I just have to give this mention in case he watches it, but when you mentioned about being at the NEC, I just, one of the funniest moments we ever had was actually at the hotel. Yeah. And we was all sat there in a group, and Super Phil, he was sat there playing the little crane, grab a teddy game.
Yeah.
And he were putting pound after pound after pound in it.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get this one every time, and he could not get it. He ran out of money, I think, or he just got fed up with it. And you come along.
I think he run out, yeah.
Yeah, you come along, sit down, quid in,
one.
Grabbed it. The one he
that.
tried. I think he spent a straight hour trying to win it.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that was the same year as well. We'd gone down for breakfast, and I shared the video on Facebook the other day. And we were sat round the table, and Cam Mills, there was Cam, Craig, and someone else, Jake Erdman, I think it was. And next thing, Phil's just got up and bang, pulled Cameron's trousers down in the middle of like 8:30 in the morning. Oh, it's so funny. But them are the kind of memories that you never forget.
Yeah. Yeah, but I know I'm hoping Phil's going to watch this, because he's been asking me for a week now who I was going to be speaking to, because I said it was somebody he knows, and he could not work it out. So I'm hoping he's going to watch this, and I hope he remembers that bit, because it was funny. I
remember the first time I met Super Phil, it was on Liam Evans' stag do at Magaluf, and me and Sam come out off that holiday going, "Who the fuck was that bloke?" You know what I mean? And he just stuck. He cracking bloke, Phil. To be fair, he's sound. He was another one that helped me a lot with doing my show car and stuff like that. And yeah, they are everyone is absolutely sound. You know what I mean? But Phil, Samo, my dad, Goldie, Leon Dorset, them are the ones that kind of all have helped me get to where I am now, if you like.
It's helped evolve you as a person. It's helped evolve you in your knowledge of what you're now doing and what you've done. And I suppose you can only be forever grateful for it. And it helps us all along as a human being, doesn't it, as we grow and become who we are and what we do. So, no, I think, as I say, I've learned quite a lot of you. We've spoken on occasions where we've had an odd drink together. And we've had a quick chit chat, but other than that, we've never really spoke in depth until now, and I can only appreciate you doing that. So I really, really do say thank you for taking your time out as obviously a dad, family man, and the kids. And all I can say is I hope life carries on going as well as can be for you, for the family. And as I say, just a general thank you for taking your time. Before we wrap it up, is there anything you would like to say to anybody? I know there's lots of people we've not seen in the past year or so, but is there a message you want to just fire out there pretty quickly?
Yeah, we've got Little in here. He may as well say hello to everyone, because there's probably a lot of people that haven't seen him. But no, I want to say thank you to everyone that's kind of brought their business to me, helped me across the years and stuff like that, and kind of got me to doing where I am now.
Yeah.
Is second in line.
Oh, hey up.
Just
look at those cheeks.
Hey, said you're milking you.
He must be full, because his cheeks are pretty.
Oh, he's just had a bottle. He's going through the teething stage now. He's got his teeth coming through, and you mate. But no, we're like, hopefully these two. Well, Freddie, he's not here. He's at his mum's house. But hopefully they both do something with themselves, and we'll do what we can for you. But if they want to do the bikes, the cars, ballet, whatever they want to do, they can do what they want to do.
You'll be in that tutu with them.
At least it's not girls, so I ain't going to get covered up in makeup. But no, hopefully we can get back to it soon and resume a bit more normality. And it's such a shame, really. What's going on is going on.
Yeah, I'll tell you though,
but what it has made you realise is how kind of important family is.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean, I've had so much time with Freddie. Like it come to a stage I couldn't see him for 3 or 4 weeks because he lives in Wales with his mom. So it's like, you know what I mean, you don't realise how precious your time is with him. And like it doesn't seem 5 minutes ago that Cal was in hospital and he was being born.
Yeah.
And that he was being born type thing. But I don't know. I wouldn't change it now. I always said I'd never have kids, but I would not change it at all.
I was exactly the same. I was terrified of how I would be, and I wouldn't change it now, regardless of how much they can drive you mad.
Oh, I know. You're a good boy, aren't you?
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Connor, tonight. Like I said, I've learned an awful lot about you, about the journey you've gone on in this sport, and I'm sure you couldn't imagine how it would have gone if you weren't in it.
No, I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know what I really would have done, to be fair.
No.
Probably, I don't know. Definitely wouldn't have been in the gym.
I know my life would be much quieter. I won't be doing videos every other night.
No.
But no, like I say, it's been fantastic talking to you. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and I can't wait for people to see your side of things and,
Yeah.
and see what you reckon. So yeah, unless you've got any final words, we'll wrap it up and we'll get this sorted so people can view your story.
Yeah, no, I think we're all good, and we mate. Are we all good? Are you happy?
I'm on telly. Right. Well, I'm Russ from GrassChat. This is Connor Pipe. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we'll definitely catch up one day when we're allowed, and we'll have a drink.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. That wraps up another GrassChat. I think that was number 12 in our little series. Again, been thoroughly enjoyable. Russ here. Thank you to Connor and little Eli, who's going to carry on the family name in a good few years' time. Thanks a lot, mate. Take care of yourself. And everybody who watches this, take care too. And we will see you soon. Hopefully in a beer tent or something. Thanks a lot. Cheers.